This is another episode of the Sports Talk Podcast. We are back after a coronavirus hiatus. Yes, the outbreak has put me in a crazy brink because I have not put out a bunch of content, but I have made highlight videos of close peers. I made a nice video for my brother, and I've done some interviews, of course. I also called some baseball games over in the independent baseball scene with the New Jersey Jackals, in which plays on the campus of Montclair State University, in which I attend. But it's back to the interview side of things, is what I'm trying to chase in my life. And another episode here, and it's a good friend of mine, mutual through social media and stuff, a junior at the Pennsylvania State University. I had to put the in front of there because I'm a huge supporter of a team that plays against them in the same conference, same division, and they're known to play at Beaver Stadium, the whiteout, the tremendous athletic tradition in football, wrestling, other sports. Now, lacrosse, they're number one on the scene, and with great communications and broadcasting programs. Kyle Cannillo, thank you very much for joining us today.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate you having me on. It's cool because we have a lot of things in common. I know you root for Ohio State, I root for Penn State, and but we also are fans of the NFL. And you're a Giants fan, I'm a Jets fan, and but we are mutually a fan of the New Jersey Devils, which is the hockey team. So we have a lot in common. We're both broadcast journalism majors. It's pretty cool to have me on. Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming on today. And I wrote down here you are a broadcaster for Penn State Communication Radio. You are also a member of video production with Penn State Athletics, and you are an officer of Nittanyville. And Nittanyville should have bumbled out for me to say, but of course, past years, that prior to Nittanyville, I will say this now and then for anyone to hear, and I have no ill will to say about this. I did watch the Happy Valley documentary, and I was so emotionally attached to watching it because it was for a class assignment, and I think it's one of the most remarkable stories because of what that school has been dealt with the past, I guess, decade, you would say, and they've rose up to the occasion and they brought their program back to a top tier level as they were years and years prior. And so I want to say about this. You're at Penn State and Nittanyville, where formerly the Joe Paterno statue was, of course, the late great Joe Paterno, one of the greatest all-time coaches in college football. And I don't want to get too into the scandal because there's many people who say there are many people who were against of what the Paterno family knew or what any other member of the Penn State football program or alumni association or even the Sandusky family knew. Because I don't want to go into that because that's deep dive into it. But
Yep.
I want to talk about the importance of Nittanyville and your student body because I know you're so active with the student body, and of course Taco Bell student section winners award of the year given out to the best student section in all of Division One sports, of course, and the Ohio State alumni quarterback Kirk Herbstreit himself says that Beaver Stadium in University Park with the Penn State whiteout is the loudest and most courageous and loyal venue or atmosphere that has been introduced, I guess, for the past probably 50 plus years. And can you deep dive into that, how that goes into play, and what's it like to hear Zombie Nation belt out through that whole stadium, and then you guys chant "We Are Penn State"? I just can't fathom
It's
wanting
amazing.
to be there. I'll skip on then I'll let you go. But I've had friends go to watch see Michigan play Penn State, of course, last year when Michigan ultimately called that timeout with not even taking a full snap. So I'll let you deep dive into that real quick.
So to put somebody in there in a little perspective of myself, the Penn State whiteout, and if you were in the crowd for a Penn State whiteout, I mean, it is hands down, in my opinion, the best atmosphere in all of sports. It's the greatest atmosphere on the planet, I argue. I understand there are a lot of great atmospheres across the nation, but this is simply one that is unrivaled. It's a bucket list you have to go to. It is the reason why that many of our buildings here on the campus of Penn State University are built on shock absorbers because the noise from the stadium shakes the surrounding ground and measures on the Richter scale. So the Penn State whiteout is just simply a remarkable atmosphere. It causes opponents to just be rattled. And you mentioned it, Michigan had to call a timeout before the game even started. It was the ultimate moment of, wow, this atmosphere, this stadium is raucous. And to win the student section of the year was really an honor because I'm a part of Nittanyville, which is technically our student section. If you don't know what Nittanyville is, it's a student section, but it's really a tent community that camps outside of Beaver Stadium the week leading up to every home game. So what we do is, it used to be called Paternaville, but they switched to Nittanyville for just neutral purposes. But we camp out, and then at the end of the week, our seats are reserved by Penn State Athletics for camping out. So we go into the stadium, we have front row seats for the best atmosphere in all of sports. These tickets on a normal game, a normal whiteout or whatever, would probably cost thousands and thousands of dollars. Well, with our student season ticket and us just camping out, all of the games cost 230 something bucks. It's the best deal in town, and it truly is an honor to be a part of Nittanyville. Winning the Student Section of the Year award was just that ultimate recognition of, wow, Penn State and their atmosphere is just special. And I know that opponents, when they come to Happy Valley to play, they dread it because they can't even hear the person sitting next to them. It's just really awesome and really special. I encourage everybody to go to a Penn State whiteout if they can, and they'll see for themselves why it's the best atmosphere in all of sports.
And I know, similar to what Duke fans for basketball call Sheseskyville, where
Right.
they go into camp out, they wait for Duke, North Carolina, of course, and during their winter semester out near Cameron Indoor Stadium for Duke games as well. And I want to give you a perspective down here. Of course, many teams, well, mostly the big games with Michigan, Ohio State coming into town. And what's that like rivalry like between those two teams? For one, not I know Michigan kind of, but it's most notably now with Ohio State being literally number one, number two on the rankings. And you guys, of course, James Franklin, when he left Vanderbilt, his number one goal was to make Penn State literally top five and into the top two tier. So, and how is that like rivalry like fathom now from years prior?
Well, Ohio State is an elite team, and there's no doubt about it. They've run the Big Ten for quite some time now. Holistically, they're the deepest team. They're the best team going into this year. But when James Franklin came to Penn State, there was all sorts of players that maybe didn't gel or belong, and there was obviously the scandal. But he took the program from the ground up and turned it into a powerhouse. And to me, there is a rivalry there between Ohio State and Penn State, at least from a Penn State perspective, because of simply how close the games have been over recent years. I believe it was only 3 games, not this past year, but 3 games prior to that, they were separated by a grand total of like 4 points. It was something crazy like that. The games have been really exciting and close. They have been the biggest challenge to Ohio State, and they have one of the best atmospheres that teams coming into town don't like to be in. I would say Michigan is not liked at Penn State either, but Penn State has kind of had their number and been a little bit more successful in the last couple of years. Penn State has more New Year's Six appearances and more New Year's Six bowls than Michigan does in the last 25 years. So all those things considered, in James Franklin's era, Penn State has quickly become a great and borderline elite program themselves, and it makes for some really interesting games against Ohio State.
Just like you said that, I don't know why I had to say Michigan because I'm supposed to say TTUN because the folks up there in the horseshoe, they wouldn't mind me saying that. But I think if you look at where Penn State is now, of course, you had quarterbacks, of course, Christian Hackenberg, I think, started the whole role for that back in the early James Franklin era. Then Hackenberg left, of course, and then for a couple of years you get Trace McSorley. This kid's a dual threat quarterback, and he's been their leader, of course. Also with Saquon Barkley, who now plays for the New York Football Giants, and James Franklin is just getting these guys left and right, of course. And now, hopefully, the starting quarterback by way of DePaul Catholic High School, Taquan Roberson, a state champion from DePaul Catholic High School, from not from Wayne, New Jersey, but the school is from Wayne, New Jersey, near only 15 minutes away or a half hour away from where I live. And I've watched this kid's highlights. You're going to love this kid because this kid can throw. This kid can run as well. And I hope he definitely will get the starting job, of course. And I think he'll bring Penn State deep into a probably Big Ten position or even college football playoff appearance, depending on if they do have New Year's Six or whatnot. So,
Right. It'll be interesting to see. I think that James Franklin, like you said, has brought in a lot of guys on both sides of the ball that have been very impressive recruits. His recruiting is known to be very good. This year was maybe slightly a down year for him, but I think Penn State's going to jump back with their 2022 recruiting class. One position, though, that he hasn't been able to recruit well, and this has been known everywhere he's been, is the quarterback position. And you mentioned a couple guys, Trace McSorley, all-time leading passing yards and touchdowns. He was a great dual threat quarterback, but imagine an elite talent such as a Justin Fields or a Trevor Lawrence going to Penn State. I'm not sure how good that team would look, but they would be dangerous for sure. They've been able to recruit on both sides of the ball well, but the quarterback is one that is interesting. Sean Clifford's going to get the job this year. He's going to continue his reign as QB, but like you said, Roberson could definitely jump in the future and end up being a starter. There's a couple other guys that they've recruited. Christian Beaulieu is one from Canada that looks really good, a 4-star. So the quarterback competition in room looks pretty solid. They just got to find the one who's going to play the best. And especially in new Kirk Shiraka's system, as offense coordinator, it's going to be interesting how he gels with a lot of these guys in the QB room.
Mm-hmm. So now I want to go into the broadcasting side of things. I want to know, like, what at a young age made you want to, like, go into sports media and or want to do sports broadcasting? Was it typically you're watching a TV or a game, or you're listening to, like, Jim Nantz or Phil Simms on CBS, or listening to Al Michaels, Chris Collinsworth, or even you watch old clips of Aikman Collinsworth and Joe Buck back in the early 2000s on Fox Sports, or, I mean, it could be anybody or from any other sport, of course.
Yeah, I feel like a lot like you. I've always been interested in sports. I always had a dream to cover sports, and I felt like a way to do that was through broadcasting. I've always been a good public speaker, and so those two things considered, I said, well, maybe I should go into sports broadcasting. Even though it's a competitive field, I find it very interesting. It would be a dream come true. And so I decided to look for avenues to become a sports broadcaster. And to do that, I decided to go to Penn State, where I get opportunity to call D1 Sports and be at the helm of really awesome athletic events here and call some of the biggest in the world, quite honestly. And I decided to come here and try to pursue that. But when I got here, there was a lot of things that I didn't know about myself. I didn't know what it took to be a good sports broadcaster. I didn't know the mechanics of being a good sports broadcaster. And I also picked up different interests like production and video production and graphics and public relations that I didn't know. So ultimately, I'd like to work in the sports industry. I'd like to be in a well-rounded situation where I'm preparing myself to be the best person I can be to an employer. And I think that ultimately I got into this field because when I was a kid growing up, I watched on my television set. There was no big influence of social media at that time. So TV was our form of news communication. And I said, I could do that. And I listened to guys like John Forsland with the Carolina Hurricanes, who's done a remarkable job in the Stanley Cup playoffs thus far. he's the guy I go to, and I think he does such a great job. He's a guy that I want to emulate, and I think that he is what really got me into the sports broadcasting side of things.
And also I want to ask you if you did like anything in high school, or whatnot, probably like either writing pieces for your school paper or whatnot. I know for myself, I wrote for 2 years in my high school's student-run school paper called The Lighthouse. I wrote sports columns, and I wrote a couple interview pieces as well. And did that want you to like also become interested in sports media? Because I went into a meeting yesterday, and of course, my professor I had the previous semester was running a new student club for our new sports network we're having on, because we are one of the 3 schools to have like a new camera system, I believe. Um, and she told us that the basis of wanting to go into sports broadcasting is to write, is to interview athletes, coaches, fans, or whatnot, and to keep stats of these certain players, get to know these players and coaches and the rest of the staff. So, is there a point in your high school career where did you like want to write as well to like improve yourself on learning more about sports media?
I'd say in high school, I didn't do a lot with my high school in the sports media. To be completely honest with you, there wasn't really a lot of avenues to do that. I took advanced video production all 4 years of high school. That was kind of my avenue to both be a speaker and a creator. And I did a lot of sports things through there, but I didn't really broadcast. I didn't really write for any local news or anything like that. But I'd say if you're an aspiring broadcaster, and believe me, I'm not in a role where I can say I'm a professional or anything like that. I'm just aspiring, just like you are. But I'd say that fundamentally, we're taught that writing is so important, and that if you can write well and you can develop good relationships with players and coaches, those two things combined can set you up for some really awesome connections and to allow you to tell really incredible stories. And so ultimately, you're a storyteller, whether it's with sports or news. You're trying to tell a story that is unfolding in front of you. And to do that, you use the beautiful language of the English dictionary, and you figure that out. So ultimately, I thought that this was a field that would be best suited for me. I wanted to pursue it. I understood that it was competitive. I understood that it maybe didn't pay initially right out of college, but I was willing to pursue my dream and hopefully never work a day in my life. And I think that that's another reason why you would be interested in a field like this.
There's always a funny saying where I get to go to games for free, calling games. And I want to point out you yourself calling Big Ten hockey, of course, I believe women's lacrosse as well, and how the Big Ten has the Big Ten Student U, of course, that network to broadcast games. So I want to ask you, like, how, like, mentally, like, how you prepare for such like big events like calling, because in the Big Ten for hockey wise, it's literally you have the Minnesotas, the Wisconsins, the Notre Dames, and you have all these out of conference teams. Now, of course, if you looked at Minnesota Mankato, the Mavericks last year, they were number 1 in the country, and they were on a roll last year, and unfortunately they lost and then got down a bit. Then the pandemic hit, of course, and then you had like the St. Cloud States and those teams. So, what on your basis point is like so like special about like, and like any advice you have to like go into a game and picture what you see on the ice court or field?
Yeah, so I'm glad you mentioned that. I do a lot of Big Ten hockey stuff. That's the sport that I broadcast the most, Big Ten hockey and Penn State women's hockey. I've pretty much done every sport here besides football. Was planning to do it, go on the road and travel with the team for Indiana at away, but obviously the pandemic hit, so we're not going to be able to do that, unfortunately. But I've called every other sport here. I'd say the sport I enjoy the most is hockey because it's fast-paced, it's rapid, and you got to know your stuff. And I feel like my knowledge of hockey is definitely one that is greater than a casual and average fan. I've always enjoyed hockey. I've been around the game for quite some time. And so when I'm preparing for a game, there's a few things that I'm looking at. First off, I called the Penn State White Rush game, which is equivalent to the Penn State Whiteout game, just for hockey. And it was the largest attendance in Penn State hockey history. And honestly, I knew it was going to be a big game. I knew it had the anticipation and hype. But when I was there in the booth and I'm looking next to my partner and I'm just looking around at the atmosphere, I'd be lying to say I didn't get nerves and chills. I said, this place is just rocking right now. And this is really special to be here and just witnessing and calling this game from a different perspective. And so to prepare for that, there's a lot of things I do. First thing I do is obviously preparation is probably the most important part of a broadcast. So I write out my line charts and write out information on each player and try to get an interesting story, look for background information. And quite honestly, I don't use all of it. I probably use 60% of it, maybe much less. Most broadcasters use only 20% of the 100% they write down. I use a lot. I try to work in different stats and try to make their broadcast really engaging. And if there's a chance, I'm going to throw something in there to make it a little spice. Play-by-play is one that I really enjoy because for hockey, it's bang, bang, bang. You got to know the players, who has the puck, what they're doing. And honestly, fundamentally, broadcasting is split up into three things. Who has the puck, ball, whatever it is, where are they, and what are they doing with it? If you can nail those three things in every single call, you're going to at least set yourself up for success. The listener is going to know what is going on. It doesn't have to be flashy. You don't have to use the Doc Emmerich vocabulary, but you need to hit those three fundamentals and, of course, time and score, and you can set yourself up for a great broadcast. So if Jack Hughes has the puck in the near side corner, it's Hughes. Near side corner, circling away, looking for a centering pass, they score, right? And so I just said where they are, who has the puck, and he circled away. Those are three things that he's doing with the puck, so, and where he is. So those things you'll be able to hit, and it just takes time. It just takes time.
I thank you for. I wrote down some stuff to remember. I mean, I'm looking at myself. I mean, next year I hopefully to I want to call men's lacrosse because I know the game and stuff. Like, here's the funny thing: I'm the manager of the team, so I kind of get teased because I get told oh, Campbell, go up to the broadcast booth and call the game. And it's like, no, I want to be down here. And then they just laugh it off as a joke. But so I'll move on here. So we'll dive now out of the Big Ten situation. But all right, you know what? I gotta, because this is breaking news, and I have to say it. I know we touched upon it about this, but it's unanimous, and Big Ten sports are back. October 23rd, a week before Halloween. You're going to see the Buckeyes. You're going to see the Wolverines, the Final Night, the Scarlet Knights, Spartans, the Penn State Nittany Lions, and Maryland Terrapins, of course, Iowa Hawkeyes. I can ramble on more, but it's so glad to see Big Ten sports back because it's both of our – of course, you go to Penn State, so you're all die hard out. Of course, myself – Ohio State football fan, but unfortunately I don't go there. But of course,
How'd you get into Ohio State? How did you get into that?
Me, when I was a kid, that's a great question. So when I was a kid, I got a football at 5 years old, and this is when Troy Smith was the greatest thing on earth, the star quarterback at Ohio State when they beat Michigan in the game back in 06 and stuff. My extended cousin gave me a red football with Ohio State on it. And then when I was a kid, I got a jersey with number 2 on it. And at that time, 12 Pryor was the starting quarterback at Ohio State. And then I literally fell in love with 12 Pryor, of course. Then Braxton Miller came along, Cardinal Jones, J.T. Barrett, Dwayne Haskins, and now, of course, Justin Fields. And it's been that way. I've looked up to many star players when I was a kid. Of course, I go back and we watch like old highlights. I listen to Carmen, Ohio, the alma mater. I listen to Fight the Team Across the Field. I listen to Buckeye Battle Cry, Hand on Slippy, Buckeye Swag, of course. And the quote unquote favorite song, we don't give a GD about the whole state of Michigan. So everyone knows that song. So I had that memorized in my head. But I mean, I am a diehard through Ohio State fan, and there's not too many people who notice about me. My other second favorite team, and I have to root for them because it's like been my precious thing since I was a kid. I'm also a through and through Notre Dame football fan because I have to be because like my uncle went there. I've known people who went there. It's probably one of the greatest feelings to be in South Bend in that atmosphere. But I would love to save that conversation for later because like it's like, oh, you like Ohio State and Notre Dame. What if they play each other? Well, the truth is, if they did play each other, which they did, in the Fiesta Bowl, I'd root for, of course, Ohio State. So, I mean,
Cool.
that's that.
Cool. Yeah, no, you just support two teams. I totally understand that. I don't mind rooting for Florida State as well. Just to want to side by that team. My cousin went there, and I like when they're good. It's good for college football. So I like when Florida State is successful, but they're not recently. They're really bad. But yes,
Yeah.
that's cool. But Big Ten being back is huge. It has such an impact to me because it not only is this huge for the players and their safety, but it allows them to get reps and prove themselves in the NFL and beyond. And it's really important that the Big Ten return for them and their coaches. And honestly, the towns rely on football for so much. They rely on it for money and economic reasons, but also just it's a part of our blood and DNA to cheer for the football team. And it's guys like us who do a lot of broadcasting. There's so many avenues and so many positive consequences that come from them returning and at least having whatever season that they can have. It's just really important, especially for the players. And, I was really feeling for the players because many of them wanted a chance at the NFL, wanted a chance to go win a national championship. And if I was a player, I would be devastated if I couldn't have had a season. And so for them to reverse the decision, I am shocked. This was 1 week ago, I'd say shocked. I said it wasn't going to happen, not happening. But it quickly developed over the last, I'd say, 72 hours or so, and thank goodness it did. We have Big Ten college football. It's one of the best conferences around. It's hard hitting. It's great atmosphere. And I know the pandemic has really put a thorn in the side of it, but we're going to make the best out of this. And who knows, one Big Ten team might be a national champion.
I think, if I recall, I think I was one of the first people after that game against Clemson. I think I Instagram direct message you saying how devastated. And I mean, I went like I didn't like lose my crap. I was like hands on my head on the floor, like I just wanted to weep because it's like it was just like that one inhuman mistake. And it's like we all make mistakes, and I look back on that game against Clemson. It could have been what if, but I think if you look at Ohio State, where they're at right now, of course, Sean Wade opted out, Wyatt Davis opted out, of course. I mean, but you look at the class they have in with all these new receivers and defensive players, whole new defensive set, the secondary. I think they'll be okay this year, of course. Everyone has some sights on the national championship, of course, but I mean, it hasn't gotten there yet since they haven't played, or either Penn State hasn't played yet, or these other Big Ten schools haven't played yet. So I'm very excited to see where that goes in the next coming weeks. So now to shift off of Big Ten, I want to talk about hockey. Of course, it's kind of our big thing. Before I want to shift off to the playoffs, sadly, I mean, I said this earlier, and I will say this now to you. myself, and we can I've totally disagreed on this with many people, and I cannot fathom this more enough. I I I blasted it on a show that we have on my school's radio station called Decent Dangles, and I said that of course there's no way the Devils were going to get either Gargalon or Peter Laviolette because one, it's the Devils. Two, if you look at Elaine Nazarene and what he took a team that was absolutely like so throughout, deep down in Davy Jones' locker, and brought them up a bit into a I would say lower than medium level. But now with Lindy Ruff at the helm, and now Mark Recchi and Elaine Nazarene staying, I'm just not sure how the Devils are gonna be looking. Of course, with second cap space, of course, most cap
Well,
space. So
I personally, for one, was incredibly disappointed by the hiring of
I
Lindy
was
Ruff.
shocked as well. I mean, I
Uh,
didn't see it coming, so I'll let you
I,
kick
I
off.
saw I saw 64 candidates that were better than him. I kid you not. Devil's Insiders put, and they have a great podcast themselves, and they have a great Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
They put out a 64 person bracket, and they wanted to see who was the best and best candidate for the Devils coaching position. And I swear, not one of those 64 was Lindy Ruff. And it caught me by complete surprise. It came out of nowhere. I'm incredibly disappointed. I don't think that was the right guy for the job. I don't know what they're paying him, but Josh Harris and David Blitzer, the owners of the Devils, made it clear that they wanted to win, yet they weren't willing to spend the money, only at like $1 million more per year, to go get Peter Laviolette, who is a Stanley Cup champion and has been to the Stanley Cup finals with 3 separate teams and has also been to the Stanley Cup playoffs 7 straight times in his full seasons. It's a joke, honestly, Campbell. I got to be honest with you. It's a joke that they couldn't go get him and get the guy that they needed to turn this team around. Instead, they got a guy who was one of the worst defensive coaches in the NHL, a guy that hasn't had any proven success over the last couple of years. And I understand he's been to Cup finals before. Bro, those were 15 years ago. We're playing Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl in this league. We're not playing Corey Perry in his prime. I mean, come on. I mean, horrible decision in my opinion. I will always disagree with it, and I actually don't care how good the Devils do because they're not going to do good. I'm telling you right now. I will still disagree with the decision, no matter how good the Devils do. I still think it's not. I will not credit it to Lindy Ruff because I know Lindy Ruff will not turn this thing around. This team was a joke last year. I'm serious.
I mean, of course, and myself, I broke the news too. I broke the news on my show, and
About
it
Lindy
was
Ruff being hired?
about Lindy Ruff being hired because Kevin Weeks put it out there on Twitter, and it was literally like right at the end of my show, and it was like all of us were just like flabbergasted, and it's so funny because like I like totally disagree with many people because like I felt like Najee didn't have a total shot because like he just had this team as an interim and I didn't think that like he like had his like fair share of like opportunities I guess because like it was way deep dive into like the season and then the pandemic hit and then that was that. So like I disagree on the fact that Najee, of course, my fear was that he was probably not gonna be staying, of course, because like I really think that he got a fair shot and that's what I got very upset of. But of course now you see Peter Laviolette, the new head coach of the Metropolitan Kings, I guess you could say, but they can't fathom their way out of the playoffs since the past 2 years. Because if you look at the Caps, they did not re-sign Barry Trotz. They didn't give him a deal. They let him out of the way into the island. But
Stupidest
now
decision they've ever made. Stupidest decision they've ever made.
it's now look at what the Islanders are doing. They're fighting their way to get to a Cup final. But of course, Laviolette now the new head coach of the Washington Capitals. And now Todd Reardon is coaching in Pittsburgh, which is funny now. So, and now I want to deep dive into the playoffs now. The Dallas Stars. Give me a second. The Dallas Stars. They were projected to probably either finish third in the Central or even make the wild card. That's all you. That's all you. Because I'm so surprised.
I'm glad you said you're surprised. I am not. They were the team I actually did pick to win the Stanley Cup in October, which is nearly 11 months ago. I tweeted that was my Stanley Cup winner. I thought the Dallas Stars were a unit. I thought that they were one goal away from going to the Western Conference Final against the Blues in their run, but Patrick Maroon put in the overtime goal. That team is a good team, and I knew what they had. I knew that they were depth. Obviously, the pause probably helped them out. It allowed them to regroup. But, hey, the Stars faced adversity at some point in the season. They fired their coach, Jim Montgomery. He had some alcohol issues. They hired I forget his name.
Rick Bowness,
and I knew that they were going to be okay. I just had a feeling. I stuck out with the Stars, and I don't want to brag either, but the bracket challenge, I decided to change out my pick. I decided to not go with the Stars based on what I saw in the round robin games, and I decided to pick my Stanley Cup winner as the Tampa Bay Lightning. So no matter what, I probably am going to get a Stanley Cup champion pick. So that is pretty cool. But I really like the Stars, and I feel for whatever reason, I'm not really sure why this is. Maybe Dallas is just not the location for it. Miro Heiskanen, the 21-year-old defender for Dallas, is just, wow. I mean, he is sensational. I don't know why he's not talked about more. McCarr and Hughes as rookies get a lot of attention, but now Heiskanen's in his second year, and he's leading the Stars in points. He might even be leading. He's not. Brendan Point is, but he's up there. He's probably top 5 in points as a defenseman, as a 21-year-old defenseman for the Dallas Stars. His impact is tremendous. He is great defensively. I argue better than both Hughes and McCarr, making him a more well-rounded player. The guy is definitely a future Norris Trophy candidate, and he is just awesome to watch, along with some role players. I mean, how about Dennis Gurianov getting that overtime winner the other day, or Dennis Gurianov scoring hat tricks, and Joel what's his name? It's Curvanta or something like that.
Something like that.
He's a guy I never heard of because he's undrafted. He's come in, he's worked his tail off, he's made a role in his team, and he is coming up big time after time again. That's what you need in the Stanley Cup playoffs. And there's one common theme that I'm seeing with all the teams remaining. They have that role player, that guys who, like the Caps right now, really, like, teams that are bouncing in the first round don't have these guys that I'm about to name. They don't have the Ryan Reeves of the Vegas Golden Knights. They don't have the Matt Martins of the New York Islanders. They don't have the Patrick Maroons of the Tampa Bay Lightning. And Maroon was not on the team last year. Big difference, right? They got swept in the first round by the wild card. They add Maroon and a couple of other key pieces such as Coleman, another gritty guy from the Devils. And boom, they got these role players that are making a tremendous impact on all sides of the ice. And that's what you need in the Stanley Cup playoffs to win.
Yeah, of course. And I just hope that, hopefully, I mean, I know everyone's so big on the Lightning, of course, and I just hope it goes another game so I'll be like out of my seat and hearing you tweet about this. I just hope it goes into 7. But if not, I hope it's a fun Stanley Cup final. So
I think it will be. I think, honestly, right now, the way I see it, it's a toss-up between the Lightning and the Stars. I do feel like the Lightning are going to get by. It's not that the Islanders are a bad team. It's just I feel like the Islanders are not ready yet. They don't have it yet. They don't have some of the pieces that, like, star power besides Barzal. I think Tampa's going to find a way to win this in 6 here and just end it the next game. It'd be great to get another Game 7. I support the Islanders, and I don't really support one team or another. I'm just looking for good games. But I do think Tampa's the better team. And if I had to pick between the Lightning and the Stars, I don't know if I could right now with any certainty. They're really close. They have great players on both sides. Yeah, wow. I can't wait. I can't wait for what future holds the Stanley Cup playoffs.
Mm-hmm. So I know we deep dived on the Devils a bit, but I have a little like synopsis of how like their season's gonna be. I know with the second most cap hit, it's gonna the whole new coaching staff, I guess, with Mark Recchi manning the power play. It's gonna be tricky, but Hughes in his second year, Goose in his second year, Palmieri getting up there in age, Travis Zajac, of course. Well, people are saying now this is my argument, and you told me to never say this again, but I have no idea who's going to be the Devils captain. But there could be a toss up about this. Either it could be Zajac, Fischer, or I am assuming goodness, and Palmieri. That's what I was about to say.
I don't know. It's a toss up.
It's toss up between those three, but I know I'll get crucified if I ever say Travis Zajac should be the captain, but everyone knows that he might be out probably after next year. He is now the longest reigning tenured Devil since the Devils shockingly did away with Andy Green. And of course, what Andy Green did, no clause on that trade, and what he's been doing with the Islanders, of course, as a key. I mean, not like as a key role player, but as a key role player in their run to the Cup. So I mean, it's sad to see former Devils like do so well, but like you also feel happy for them personally because of like, of course, like they're doing such good things, of course, and I mean, then you have other players doing or not so well. I don't want to name that because there's only one guy that I can think off the top of my head that just hired a new GM, and I have his poster up on my wall because he won MVP a couple years ago. So that kind of makes me a little upset too. So I won't want to name him, but I think he might either resign with a team called Arizona or probably go somewhere else. But you know what I'm thinking.
Right. I'd say that the Devils, their former Devils, have had some pretty decent success in the playoffs. Coleman and Green both playing roles for the team. Green is interesting because he kind of fits the Islanders system a little bit, playing really tight Lou Lamoriello style hockey, Barry Trotz. It's a perfect fit for him. And for a second-round pick, I'm sure the Islanders don't mind, and nor do the Devils. It was a good deal for both sides. Just a shame to see a guy like that go. He's been in the uniform for so long, give his heart every single night. Andy Green was just a legend, honestly, and will be known that amongst Devils fans in their community. But honestly, the team's just, I don't know what you think is going to happen next season, but I know for a fact they're not going to be good. They're not going to be good at all. Honestly, it's still quite a number of years away. I don't see them good in the Lindy Ruff era either. I think they would need a new head coach to be good. I really don't have any confidence in the guy, like zero. And I know that's really bad that I'm saying that. If he went off, then I guess I'm proven wrong and the team's good. But I'll believe it when I see it, and I won't be seeing it because it's not going to be happening. So the Devils, their team to me has been very disappointing. They've made a lot of good talent acquisitions, but then they made a lot of questionable decisions in the management and the coaching staff. And to me, they have no direction. They have absolutely no heart to win. They have no organization. I quite honestly, I'm not impressed by the Devils at all. It's really frustrating to be a fan. And honestly, they're borderline the laughingstock of the league next to the Sabres because they actually had expectations coming in. They've had first overall picks. They had the pieces that they needed, and they still blew a 4-0 lead on opening night. Just a joke, honestly.
And
were you at that game?
Where?
Do you go to the Devils games, or can you get out to Devils games?
I only live not even 20 minutes away.
Did you go to the opening night game by any chance or no?
You know how bad I wanted to go to that game, and then I watch it on TV, and the first thing I see is literally, who is it? Lonnie scores with like 11 seconds left in uh the second period, and then all heck breaks loose. Corey goes down and stuff, and it's like one of those things. Because like myself, I am for one am a firm believer in believing until the ship ultimately sinks way down. And of course, I know yourself firmly. I know if you see something that's not right the first time you see it, it's like I'm done with this. This can't get this out of my sight. It's like, and I know many few people like that, but it's like, I mean, I just had to see it to believe it until I finally said, this team is just a major failure, and look what have they done? And it's just,
Yeah.
I want, it was,
And honestly, and if I could just interject real quick, honestly, I am sick and tired of the fans that are like, "Oh, it's gonna get better and it's always positive." I
yeah,
honestly like wake up. Like you're
yeah,
not seeing the game the way I am. You're seeing the team that has a really cute kid as an 18-year-old be their number first overall pick. That's how you're seeing the team. Versus I'm seeing the team structurally as an absolute mess, and that they have Dakota Mermis and Freddie Clayson still in their top 6 right now. It's a joke. The roster is a joke. They need to overhaul it. It's never going to compete in Lindy Ruff's era until major changes are made. So they're still years away, and people are like, oh, I'm willing to wait, positivity. Waited too long. If you wait any longer, you'll look like the Buffalo Sabres. Enough is enough, and start the expectations now. Because if you don't, you're not going to start winning. And honestly, winning in hockey is the ultimate heal. Everything is healed when you win, and they got to start doing that.
mhm. And like you said, like I'm just a firm believer in like having like good like thoughts, positivity. But I mean, after that night, it just felt so uncertain. And now you look at other teams. We are the laughing stock in the tri-state area. Uh, Second, I would say probably below Pittsburgh if you count the Pennsylvania, New York, and New Jersey spectrum. We're below Pittsburgh, below where I mean
Dead last in
Philly.
the division. Dead last in the division.
I mean,
Yeah. All the division, everybody in the division made the 2014 playoff besides the New Jersey Devils. Mind you, the Devils were supposed to compete for a playoff spot, and even maybe beyond that, they had a roster that was capable of going into maybe Stanley Cup conversation and deep into the playoffs. You don't know. It's the playoffs, but you were supposed to make the playoffs. That was the expectation. They didn't even make a 2014 tournament. It was just unacceptable. Unacceptable, to be honest.
so much for changing the lines after the second period on your opening night game.
Yeah, that too, and that's why Hines kind of got
I
fired.
think that I think that like killed everything.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
if they're playing so well, they give up a goal. Yeah, they give up a goal, and then you mix everybody, and then the collapse just ensues. It's just embarrassing.
yeah, yeah,
So,
100%. Yeah. Oh well. Well,
so we'll now dive into some football stuff, and I watched the Jets for a bit on Sunday. Same old New York Jets.
yeah, you said it
Try to
best.
restock on your offensive line. Jets fans say this. Oh, Tom Brady gone. Now in Tampa Bay. Cam Newton. Oh, this guy. Newsflash. You're not the best team in New York. You're playing the best team in New York, and you're playing them in a crazy venue called whatever they're naming their new stadium now, Buffalo. Just know Bills Mafia's not there, but still Josh Allen's going to be throwing at your discobobble defense and running down the ball with your throats with a Sean McCoy and McDermott just pounding on your defensive line that has been atrocious, and your offensive line, trying to restock your offensive line. Fire Adam Gase, please. Sorry if I'm yelling. Fire him.
I agree.
Leave Bell out for probably 3 to 6 weeks for a hamstring injury. I'm sorry if I'm yelling, but Jets fans, And Kyle, I know you're a diehard Jets fan, but reason me out on this.
Yep.
You are not going to win more than probably 5 games. More than 5 games. I say this with decent amount of respect and decency as a Giants fan. And the Giants are in the worst division in the whole league. And a team with no name is leading the division.
Yeah.
Fire Gase now, please.
Yeah.
Sam Darnold, is he a good quarterback? That's 50-50. Is okay? Yes. I mean, get this guy some help with the offensive line and good receiver course. Chris Hogan's not gonna catch the ball every time.
No.
Nima Bill's not gonna get the ball every time. Frank Gore's not gonna get the ball every time. Are you kidding me?
It's not a good team. Obviously, they had a really rough first week. I thought the NFL first week was really fascinating and interesting, and a lot of interesting storylines to that. We'll get into that in just a second. But as for the Jets, I have been pretty clear on my stance. I do think Adam Gase should go. Whether or not I think Darnold is a good quarterback, I don't. I also don't know, because I was believing in the kid for quite some time, and then all of a sudden, now there's been flashes of complete disappointment, and then there's been flashes of greatness. The problem is I can't really tell, because he's been surrounded by absolute garbage, and both of those pieces of garbage have been the head coaches. Adam Gase has been awful. They've been 31st in the league since he was the head coach in offensive efficiency. Remember, that's 31st. And what was he hired for, Campbell? What was he hired for? What side of the ball was he hired to coach?
The one that gets more points on the scoreboard.
Right, yeah, that's the one that's 31st in the NFL. Yeah. It's honestly, it's just a complete disappointment and joke. And I think that he should go, but I don't even think that that's ultimately the problem. There's so many things that's with the team. They don't have any wide receivers of any name. I feel like they lost Jamal Adams, which, by the way, I supported that trade. Got him out of town for a nice price and a nice return. I do believe in one guy, however, and this is the first time I think I believed in a Jets general manager in a very long time. I really like what Joe Douglas is doing. He has a vision. I see it. I think he makes good decisions. And Joe Douglas, to me, is one of the best general managers the Jets have had in a long time. But the team is on the verge of winning, maybe. And honestly, the Giants, I'm not sure. I feel like the Giants are slightly better than they were last year. Not saying they're going to compete for a playoff spot, but I feel like they're a group that could surprise some people in a weak division, get a couple wins, snag a couple of key wins, and I don't know, maybe make some noise here and there and be a team that you can't just push over this year, which is something that is really important. Because I felt like in years past, they were pushovers, not with Joe Judge and this team. I don't feel that way.
Yeah, like you said, and of course, I know you're from the Central Jersey area, but where I'm from, I'm only 2 minutes, not even. I'm literally like two blocks away from Route 3. I live near the stadium. It's literally, I can see it from my house. Literally, Jets fans, when they get overconfident, it's just like, you're not going to win the division with the structure you have, the way the ownership is going with. I mean, look, yeah, you built on your offensive line, but here's the thing. The other quarterbacks in the division are this: Allen, Newton, Fitzpatrick. And if Fitzpatrick goes down, look who'll be strolling in wearing number 1. And he's got a blazing left arm for a cannon. And he's not afraid to run, too. So, I mean, I look at Darnold, it's like, I can't buy the hype of this guy. I remember watching his last college game in the Cotton Bowl against Ohio State. Greg Schiano was the defensive coordinator, and we all know how Schiano was. He will get to you in under 5 seconds. He's not afraid now, of course. He's not afraid to use that defense, of course, now, but he's the head coach at Rutgers now. He's trying to rebuild that program. But for the Jets wise, it's like, just stop, just look in the mirror, realize that you're not going to be good in a couple years. It's going to take probably at least 3 to 4 years to have a championship caliber team. It's going to take 3 to 4 years to find find another guy that had the same passion like Rex Ryan did, where Rex Ryan had Mark Sanchez and as quarterback, when Mark Sanchez was ultimately good. And then of course they had Santonio Holmes, like Dane Thompson trying to get himself back at it. Nick Mangold, who's now retired, but to try to find another Nick Mangold, I mean, I don't think they can do that. But I mean, it's just like, and then Jets fans laughing at Giants fans last year at the draft party when the Giants drafted Daniel Jones. How's that sound now, knowing that Daniel Jones might be better than Sam Darnold?
Yeah. Who knows? I feel like it might be still too early to tell about Darnold. It's in his third year now, and I know I should be having an opinion on him. Just sometimes he looks unbelievable. Like, he actually looks unbelievable sometimes. He, in the last, I think, 3 weeks of the regular season, had the best quarterback efficiency. I mean, you saw him in the Rose Bowl against Penn State. Absolutely torched him. Like, remarkable. Thought he was the next great thing. And there's been times where he's looked like that. There's also been times where he has been lost. And he even said it himself. He's seeing ghosts and all that stuff. He's lost. So it's really tough to tell under Adam Gase, and Todd Bowles was a defensive coach. So whatever. I don't think that this team is really prepared to take the next step for at least a couple of years. The teams in the past, like Rex Ryan, head coach in that team, that was a defensive group that was fired up to play for Rex Ryan. They wanted to play. They wanted to give it their heart and give it their all. I just don't feel that this locker room feels like they want to give it their all and give it their heart and play for the New York Jets. It's the same old Jets, and nothing's going to ever change.
I always feel like how MetLife Stadium was structured, not on the basis of the Giants organization, but it was on the basis of how the ownership of Woody Johnson wanted the whole stadium. And you look at it, decade plus, the only team to host a playoff game in MetLife Stadium, the only team to have a world championship in MetLife Stadium, technically. Well, I mean, to have their team have a world championship that shares the stadium. The New York Football Giants. It's not the Jets. It hasn't been about the Jets since probably the year that they opened MetLife, or the year prior. It's been about the Giants. The Giants have been probably the keeper barrier of the New York football landscape. Now, besides, since the keeper barrier now, I guess you could say, could be the guys upstate near Lake Ontario, of course, would be the Buffalo Bills. And it's just mind-blowing because I look at myself and saying, yeah, am I proud to be a Giants fan? Yes. You know why? Because yes, we're in a bad division, but like our division is made up of teams that ultimately struggle throughout seasons or throughout the playoffs. Now, with the exception of Eagles fans saying that, oh, now we have a world championship. Now we think we're the hottest thing since sliced bread or something. Cool, you beat Tom Brady on Tom Brady's probably best Super Bowl performance he's had, besides that 28-3 comeback in Super Bowl 51 against the Falcons. Tom Brady still threw for 450 yards, but yet the defense was amazing, and you got to Tom Brady. Cool, because Doug Peterson likes to go on fourth downs, and Eagles fans, you should know, I like Carson Wentz, great quarterback, but here's the thing. He still gets injured, and that's not good. You don't have Nick Foles anymore. If you need to go deep into the playoffs, your star quarterback, your star guy needs to stay healthy throughout all 16 games in a year, and they're still depleted. They're still injured. If you look at the Eagles, they're still injured. Now you look at the Cowboys, of course. Leighton Vander Esch has a broken collarbone, and now the Cowboys starting right tackle has a torn ACL. Or I'm sorry, tight end has a torn ACL, and they're done. But if you look at the Washington football team with Ron Rivera, of course, having cancer, and him taking the IV during halftime, is probably the sickest thing I've ever seen. Sicking sickest thing as in good terms, because if you look at Ron Rivera, he is a culture guy, great guy. Played on that 86 on the 80, 82, 83. Oh my goodness, or 84. I can't remember the Bears team, the no-name defense. Buddy Ryan, of course, the father of both Rob and Rex, with the no-name defense. The 17-1 Bears, of course, with Walter Payton, Jim McMahon, the refrigerated, Mike Singletary, of course. Legends, of course. And it's just crazy, like all these like divisions are now. But I want to ask you this: is it weird seeing Tom Brady in another uniform as a Jet fan, or is it that like or is it like that Jet fan mentality saying, "I'm so happy I don't have to play this guy twice from the past 20 years of my life"?
I don't know, honestly. I would credit more success to Bill Belichick and what he's able to do with that troop every single year, with or without surrounding talent. I know Brady is a great quarterback with a great mind and led them to tremendous success, but I do think that Brady is more replaceable in New England than Belichick would have been. So I think that Cam Newton's going to slide in there and he's going to be okay. And yes, the Patriots aren't going to blow teams out anymore, and they're not the unit that they once were. They have very little talent surrounding Newton and lots of opt-outs as well. I don't find it weird. I think that the first game, Brady, I thought was okay. He wasn't anything more than okay to me. Um, he struggled to find his targets. Maybe there was a little bit of miscommunication on a couple of routes or what have you, but I don't know. I didn't feel like Brady blew me away at all. I don't feel like at the age of 43 he's going to anymore. I think he's 43, right?
Yeah.
That's remarkable. He's still the greatest of all time. Anybody who has 6 Super Bowl trophies is the greatest of all time. I think Jets fans are excited he's gone, but they realize that the team that the Jets have right now is not good. So it's regardless. It's meaningless what the Patriots do. As long as Bill Belichick is there, they will be successful. Guaranteed.
So I'm gonna ask you: do you watch baseball at all?
Don't watch any baseball. I couldn't
No.
even tell you a couple players. I got like
Oh.
Aaron Judge and Jacob DeGrom, and I know DeGrom's the best one, and I like him, but that's it.
I mean, if you look at my thing, I mean, I'm a huge Red Sox fan,
Yeah.
so that's like my thing. So I get made
Cool.
fun of it, but I mean, of course, when my friends or Yankee fans tell me, keep reminding me, oh, twice World Championships. Yeah, what's your team done the last decade? Oh well, excuse.
Right.
Uh,
Well, Yankee fans have quite the fan base for sure. So do the Red Sox.
Oh yeah, of course. It's that Boston mentality, of course. But I mean, well, here's the thing.
That's probably one of the best riveries in the United
Yes.
States. It
Yes.
actually probably is, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Yankees Red Sox will go
Yeah.
down as the
Mm-hmm.
most traditional and big time.
Are there like any other hockey teams you like besides like, or like watch besides the Devils that you're like a fan of or like you cheer
Um,
for?
I keep track of the Avalanche a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
only because I like McCarr and McKinnon. I think there's a real possibility that McKinnon is, a top 2 player in the NHL, probably right behind McDavid. I think he closed the gap with this remarkable playoffs. I'm bummed that they got eliminated, but obviously the Stars are a good team, so that makes sense. But man, McKinnon was just – I've never seen a player more exciting to watch in a playoff. I mean, that guy was taking over. He was a truck, dude. He was just demolishing every puck, every person in his path, and just I've never seen a guy take over a hockey game like I saw him do every single night. The only that he reminded me of Taylor Hall taking over hockey games when in his MVP season, because it was Hall or nobody else, and that's what McKinnon was doing. I think the MVP race is really close. Really close. And I honestly can't decide for myself. I think I would give it to Leon Draisaitl, maybe because he proved that he was good, 1, without McDavid while he was injured, and 2, he was leading in points by a decent margin. But man, let's not forget about McKinnon here, because he had 42 points more than rookie defenseman Cale Makar on that team. Not many people even know that. He dragged that team just as much as Hall did. And I understand there's more depth pieces in the Avalanche, but McKinnon, man, he's a piece. And Panarin, I love Panarin. You know, he was so good this year, night in and night out. He just was in probably on more like 50% of Ranger goals. I'm just throwing that number out there, but it seemed like it. He was always involved in a Ranger action and was so counted on with him and Zibanejad. It was an awesome, awesome duo this year. I don't know. It's a tough one. I like the MVP conversation. It's always a good one.
That's good. I mean, when I was a kid, if the Devils didn't make the playoffs, of course, I had to root for the Bruins, of course. My mother's from Massachusetts and stuff, and so I had that Boston fan mentality in my head. I saw the Celtics lose last night, of course, to the Heat, and in basketball, and also when I grew up loving Ovi. I love watching the Capitals play since I was a little kid. I've loved Ovi back when it was him, Backstrom, of course, Theodore back in the day.
Greatest goal scorer ever, for sure.
Varlamov, of course. Man, his first couple of years with the team. Kozlov, Sergei Fedorov. He's winding down. Oh man, those are fun early memories when I was little. But it was, I mean, you look back at those good memories back in the day. So it's been good. So
Cool. Any other questions you have for me today?
I nothing, man. So that'll end here today on episode 11 of the Sports Talk podcast. Yours truly, Campbell Donovan. Kyle, I thank you for coming on today, of course. And I'll give you the floor too for any last words.
Thank you so much for having me on. Really appreciate it. Awesome to talk sports. I would say I'll quickly touch on a couple things. Glad Big Ten is back. The New Jersey Devils have a lot of work to do. New York football stinks no matter which way you look at it. And I'm just excited for sports in full swing. It's been awesome. And for those aspiring broadcasters out there, do what we've been doing. Let's keep it up. Let's help each other and assist each other in what we need. And we could do some really awesome things together. Thank you so much.
That was Kyle, and this is Campbell Donovan with the Sports Talk podcast. Remember, everybody, I would trademark this in a few years. Sports is the beacon of light, and it's the beacon of hope. What America has been through the couple past months has been unordinary, but we've gotten things together. Everything's coming back in swing of things. Dining, sports, movie theaters, parks, stores, even now schools back open. Just have fun, do something, be active. Watch Game 6 tomorrow night, of course. Watch more sports, more football tomorrow night, of course. You got the AFC North, the Bengals and the Browns. Should be a good one. Thank you again.